The girl in the car window opposite me, she keeps on staring at me. Does she love me? How will I know? Will I ever know? The girl in the car window opposite me, she keeps on looking at me.
Alright, hey everyone, and welcome back to this week's video. In this week's video, I'm coming at you with a faith talk from South Carolina. As you can tell, I am staying in the marshes of South Carolina right now, and it's super cool. So I have a faith talk that I actually was inspired to make a few weeks ago when I took my trip to New York and North Carolina, which you may have seen. And it's all about my experience flying for the first time, because as like typical an experience as that is for people in the world today. Wow, the cicadas are really gonna make this interesting. But as typical of an experience as that is for like our world today, I had never flown before like a few weeks ago. Like never ever. And so I got to experience my first time on an airplane flying in my life a few weeks ago with my best friend Anna when we were flying to North Carolina to visit her grandmother, which by the way, if you haven't seen those vlogs, check them out. But when we were flying there, it was a really short flight, but I was like really inspired by it. So be sure to check out all the like pictures and everything that I took and edited to look cool that are on the blog and Instagram right now. But as soon as we took off and we got up and like could see actually the Manhattan skyline, and then we could be over the clouds and see the clouds and rivers and lakes and everything, I was immediately reminded of this Bible verse. I was reminded of Psalm chapter 19 verse 1, which says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech, night after night they display knowledge." So especially the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. So that's so cool to unpack and like to see from a different perspective, because I think that flying really like gave me a different perspective, or at least like offered me a different perspective. And I think throughout life we can really choose what perspective we take and how that affects the world around us. So I was really reminded over the clouds of how like everything we see can be a sign of God's goodness if we choose to see it that way. So like every peak of the cloud he made so that maybe we'll see it and maybe we'll be inspired by it, which is just such a cool thing to think about. So everything can be a sign of his goodness and his love for us if we choose to see it that way. So with that, I think perspective is so important in our lives. And I definitely see this through a photographer's point of view, because with photography, they're really screwing with us here. Because with photography, so much of just taking good pictures is your perspective and how you see either the person you're shooting or the event or the object. Like how you see it and what you notice about it is so important into what you want to capture in that picture. Noticing the details of the world around you is what like makes a good photographer, in my opinion, is like noticing cool details about the world around you. And so when we see God in those details, then that we're just continually reminded of his goodness for us, which is just such a cool thing. And it was so interesting how when flying, the world seemed so like attainable, because on a plane it can kind of take you anywhere, but also it showed how the world is attainable and yet God is guiding you to a certain place. So like this plane can go anywhere in the world, and like our lives can go anywhere we choose for them to go, but like God leads us on the path he's made for us. So like my flight was going to the Raleigh-Durham International Airport, and that plane the pilot could have chose to fly anywhere, but it was set on that destination, to that specific destination of Raleigh, North Carolina. So I think that that was like just an interesting way to see it, as like it can go anywhere and our lives can go anywhere, but God leads us to the place where we're meant to be, even if we don't understand why we're meant to be there. And also God just delights in the details so much, and that's such a cool thing to experience. That like I was saying before, like every little thing can be a sign of his goodness and his love for us. So like once we start seeing the world in that way, then we can view the world differently. And also seeing, I don't know, like I am a sucker for a good sunset and a good sunrise, and like just cool skies, because I think that the sky and the clouds are definitely ways that God can show us his like artistry and goodness. And so seeing the sky and the clouds from that perspective was such a cool thing. And so it definitely reminded me that like God is definitely an artist. Like he says in Jeremiah chapter 18 verse 6, you are like the clay in the potter's hands and I am the potter. So he formed the world in order that we can see it and be moved by it. Like we weren't made to just experience the world in the same way as everyone else. We're made to experience the world in the way that God made it for us, if that makes sense. But also with perspectives, that kind of reminded me of how important and amazing it is to travel, because even while I'm here in South Carolina, everywhere we go is an opportunity to see more of the world that God created for us to see. Like I don't think we were meant to stay in like one specific little area our whole lives, because God made the world for us to see. And so therefore we can like experience other people's beliefs and cultures and ideas, and especially through going to New York I realized that, because there are so many different types of people with so many perspectives on the world, which is such a cool thing. So by traveling, I feel like it's great to almost expose yourself to those different ways and see how God is reaching other people. Alright, so I'm actually filming this in a neighborhood near my house, so there are a lot of houses and people, and it's like a little bit interesting. So I hope you enjoyed this video. That's it for the faith talk. Be sure to check out the blog post with more explanation. And it was amazing to fly for the first time. It sounds very just kind of random and not like an exciting thing, but it was super exciting for me. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her.